The rain was coming down so hard that afternoon that it looked like the sky had simply given up. Sheets of water slammed against the windshield of my old pickup truck, turning the highway into a blurry river of headlights and shadows. Most people were rushing home, desperate to escape the storm. I was doing the same until I noticed a small silver car stranded on the side of the road, its hazard lights flashing weakly through the rain. What happened next changed my life in a way I never could have imagined. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness still matters and that one small act can change someone's future, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us share more stories that remind people there is still good in the world. I almost kept driving. After all, I was exhausted. My name is Rowan Hale, and at that point in my life, things weren't going well. I worked long hours repairing machinery at a local warehouse. The pay barely covered rent. My father had passed away 2 years earlier, and the loneliness he left behind still followed me everywhere. Most days felt like a cycle of work, bills, and silence. But something about that stranded car bothered me. Maybe it was because the storm was getting worse. Maybe it was because I remembered all the times my father had stopped to help strangers when I was growing up. Whatever the reason, I pulled over. The rain soaked me instantly as I stepped out. Water dripped from my jacket as I approached the vehicle. Inside were 2 young women, both looking worried and frustrated. Their windshield was fogged, and they seemed relieved to see someone stop. The car wouldn't start. I wasn't a professional mechanic, but I knew enough about engines to diagnose common problems. I popped the hood and immediately saw the issue. Water had gotten into part of the electrical system. Fixing it in that weather wasn't easy. For nearly 40 minutes, I stood in the pouring rain, my hands freezing as I worked. Cars sped past, spraying water across the shoulder. More than once I wondered why I hadn't just continued home. But every time I looked up, I saw the relief in their faces. Eventually, the engine sputtered. Then it roared to life. The sound felt like a victory. The 2 women looked genuinely grateful. Their names were Tessa and Marin. They thanked me repeatedly, but what surprised me wasn't their gratitude. It was what they said before leaving. They smiled and said they hoped they could see me again someday. I laughed awkwardly and told them they probably wouldn't. Life has a way of scattering strangers in different directions. They drove away. I went home. And I assumed that was the end of the story. For the next few weeks, life continued as usual. Long shifts. Empty evenings. The same routine. Yet occasionally I found myself thinking about that rainy afternoon. Not because I expected anything from it, but because helping someone had reminded me of a version of myself I thought I'd lost. A version that still believed small acts mattered. Then one Saturday morning, something unexpected happened. I was drinking coffee at a local diner when someone called my name. I turned around and froze. Standing near the entrance were Tessa and Marin. For a moment, none of us spoke. Then they smiled. It turned out they had spent weeks trying to find me. The highway patrol had helped them identify the location where their car broke down. After asking around nearby businesses, they eventually found the warehouse where I worked. I couldn't believe anyone would go through that much effort just to thank a stranger. But they explained something I never expected. That day on the highway had been one of the worst days of their lives. They weren't simply traveling. They were driving to visit their mother, who had recently undergone a serious medical procedure. Their emotions were already stretched thin. When their car broke down during the storm, panic set in. They felt completely alone. Then someone stopped. Someone who didn't know them. Someone who had no reason to help. Someone who stayed in the rain until the job was done. To me, it had felt like a small act. To them, it had meant everything. Over breakfast, we talked for hours. It felt strangely natural, as though we had known each other much longer than a few minutes on the side of a highway. As the months passed, our friendship grew. Tessa worked with a community outreach organization. Marin volunteered at shelters during weekends. Their outlook on life was different from mine. They constantly looked for ways to help others. Slowly, they pulled me into that world. At first, I hesitated. I wasn't wealthy. I wasn't influential. I barely had enough time for myself. But they showed me something important. Kindness isn't measured by money. It's measured by willingness. Soon, we were organizing food drives, helping elderly neighbors with repairs, and supporting local families facing difficult times. For the first time in years, my weekends felt meaningful. Something inside me was healing. The loneliness that had followed me since losing my father began to fade. One evening, nearly a year after the storm, Tessa handed me an old photograph. It showed a group of volunteers standing together after completing a community project. There I was, smiling. A genuine smile. Not the forced kind people wear when they're trying to appear okay. A real one. Looking at that picture, I realized how much my life had changed. Not because I fixed a car. Because I stopped. Because I cared. Because one simple decision created a chain reaction I never saw coming. Today, Tessa, Marin, and I remain close friends. Together we've helped hundreds of people in small ways. None of us became famous. None of us became rich. But we've witnessed something more valuable. We've seen how kindness spreads. We've seen struggling people find hope. We've seen strangers become friends. And we've seen ordinary moments become life-changing memories. Before this story ends, if it has touched your heart even a little, please like the video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that good people still exist. Every interaction helps these stories reach more people. Special request: comment below with one act of kindness you've received from a stranger that you'll never forget. As I think back to that stormy afternoon, I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had kept driving. I would have arrived home a little earlier. I would have stayed dry. And I would have missed one of the most meaningful chapters of my life. The truth is that kindness rarely announces its importance in advance. It usually appears as an inconvenience, a delay, or a small choice that seems insignificant at the time. Yet those choices can echo for years. That rainy day, I thought I was simply fixing a broken car. I didn't realize I was also helping repair a broken part of myself. And in return, two strangers gave me something I thought I had lost forever. Connection. Purpose. And a reason to believe that even in the darkest storms, one small act of kindness can light the way forward.